Councillor Walker. Councillor Watson. IMSB member Wilcox.
Aye.
Councillor Young.
For.
Thank you. That's carried 15 votes to 1.
Kia ora, thanks, Maya. We move into the next item, and that is Kia ora Tamaki Makaurau, item 14. And it'll be moved by Councillor Dalton and seconded by Matua Kake. So I'll invite Herewini Te Koha Director Māori Outcomes, Ashley Walker, Practice Lead Māori Outcomes, and Luann Ballantyne, Head of Māori Strategic Outcomes. Tēnā koutou katoa. And I'll leave it to you, Matua, to introduce the item. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. Tēnā koutou te he mana o tēnei o tātou komiti. E te koramatua me ngā hoa mema katoa o te committee of PACE and colleagues. Yes, as pointed out, we have joined by colleagues Luann Ballantyne and Ashley Walker for this item, in case I go off the rails. But we're asking the committee to receive the 6-monthly update, and we're really pleased to provide it to the PACE committee. You'll be aware that the Kia ora Tāmaki Makaurau framework was adopted by PACE in July last year, pretty much at the start of the current operating year, and that sets up a regime of 6-monthly reporting back to PACE, and this is the first of those reports. It's the inaugural 6-month report covering the period 1 July through to 31 December, and the annual report will come to PACE, the first such report under the guidance of Kia ora Tāmaki Makaurau in and around September of this year. With the inaugural report, I just would like to take the members through the highlights, and Ashley's kindly put up the summary slide that talks to the update report submitted to the committee. The highlights for the period, so it's just early stages, first 6 months of activity aligned to Kia ora Tāmaki Makaurau. So of the 10 key outcomes or mana outcomes that are built into or that are the basis for Kia ora Tāmaki Makaurau, we've got a range of good through to need to work harder. 6-month status reports to provide the committee. But in terms of highlights, as is noted here, we do have the framework. It's providing the ability to guide contributions and performance across Auckland Council Group, and we continue still to further work on that guidance and give further definition as we go forward and learn more over the first 6 months of implementation. We've got good uptake and goodwill across the group, and we can point to a range of progress, either positive or initial, as part of the 6-month report. In terms of the period in review, we've got the the cross-cutting challenge of the impact of COVID-19 that slowed down some progress, particularly around our capital projects that we're supporting. The marae infrastructure projects are understandably delayed due to COVID restrictions and supply chain challenges that have arisen. And we note the ongoing challenge of mana whenua engagement across this work, and testing back to make sure there's broad alignment with priorities with mana whenua and wider Māori audiences, and to that end, keeping in good contact with colleagues at the IMSB. Early days, but we're also looking to push on and raise the profile and visibility of Kia ora Tāmaki Makaurau and expected contributions across the Auckland Council Group, and to marshal that effort, we're doing work to bring together a roadmap, an implementation strategy to support the contributions across those 10 mana outcomes. If I can just briefly say, of the 10 mana outcomes, we've got 4 that we would advise the committee are showing pleasing signs of progress. Those are Kia ora te umanga, the business and enterprise and economy outcome, Kia ora te reo, again, in terms of recognition and support for te reo across council group, and how that lands in terms of the experience of Tāmaki Māori groups and users of our services across Auckland Council, Kia ora te whānau, which is focusing in at the whānau level of wellbeing, and hāngai te kaunihera, which are the internal arrangements with council. So fair to say, some of that's more light green than deep rich green, but it's pleasing to see the progress on 4 of those 10 spaces, because we've got activity underway, we've got leadership of those outcomes that's pushing that work forward, supported by their initial plans, and that work is coming together. We've got another 4 that are in the middle band, the amber band, Kia ora te kāinga, Kia ora te marae, which I talked about in terms of really good work there, but the COVID disruptions are an understandable impact on the progress of that work. Kia ora te taiao, and Kia ora te hononga, which is the issue of getting strong, consistent and good quality reach and engagement across Tāmaki Māori, mana whenua and Mātā Waka communities. Lots more work to be done there. And 2 of the other 2 of the 10 outcomes, Kia ora te ahurea, Māori culture and identity across Tāmaki Makaurau, and Kia ora te rangatahi. We do have issues there with getting reportage underway, and also there may be question marks about whether or not we've located those particular areas and lead responsibility in the right areas across the council group, and whether or not we need to have a bit of a rethink on those particular outcomes. So early days, some work-ons, but pleasing to get the first 6 months under our belt and talk to more positive progress, while also seeing some areas to work on. Now, councillors might, in seeing the full written progress update, have the question about whether or not this is comprehensively capturing all of the positive activity and contributions for Māori outcomes across council group. The short answer is we're reliant at this stage, at this very early stage, on what the leads, the mana outcome leads, are able to collate and bring together into our reportage. So there are no doubt relevant activities going on that we haven't yet caught within the net of Kia ora Tāmaki Makaurau and the reporting arrangements we have at this early stage. But again, that's one of those areas that we'll be working on with successive reporting to make sure we've got a fuller contribution, a fuller scorecard to report back to council. Nonetheless, we appreciate the work that those leads are putting in to help us put together the first 6-month report to PACE Committee. Kia ora koutou.
Tēnā koe te rangatira. Just seeing if Ashley or Llewellyn, I'm assuming that you've taken the lead and they are your support crew, Matua. Ka pai te rā. I'll go to Matua Wilcox. Matua, if you're still trying to push that button. Yeah, ka pai.
Karo?
Yeah, ka pai.
e mihena kia koutou ngā kai kawe rapapoto mo tēnei kaupapa o te rangahau me ngā kōrero o tēnei kaupapa o ki te komiti nei. He kōrero, he pātai tāku, e tiki rana ki te whārangi ko tahirau ruatakau, I roto e tēnā nā te kōrero me ngā whitiwhiti kōrero ki tā mana whenua. I mea mai koe, he wero tēnā. He ha te take he wero I te mea moihana au lima te kau mano nā te nui o te pūtea mo rātou. I pānui au I te kaupapa nei o tēnei komiti. Tata ki ngā huri, ngā kōrero, ngā kōrero, ngā tono ki ngā iwi. Ngā horakau rātau e whakauitu, tērā te take. I te noi ho ngā purea. Ia te hakaro tēnā, me piki ake tēnā. Tērā taku pātai. Oh, sorry, was I speaking in Māori?
Kei te pai, tēnā koe te mema.
Sorry.
Te matu e Glenn. If it's right through the chair to reply to te pātai ko pātaingia mai e koe. You're quite right. The capacity building program we have within council has been a program that goes back to just after amalgamation, so 11, 12 years and counting, and it has remained fixed at an annual grant to the mandated iwi organisations of $50,000 per entity per annum, and that magical sum is meant to cover a whole range of engagement, either expectations or invitations and requests put out by all parts of the Auckland Council Group to each of the iwi entities involved. For some of the large mature organisations, iwi entities, they're very much comfortable picking the issues that they wish to muscle up on and have deep engagement with council. But at the other end of the spectrum, with the much smaller iwi entities, the fledgling organisations, it's a lot of ground to cover, and the $50,000 grant that we are able to make under the current program probably doesn't recognise the full transaction burden that is placed on iwi from year to year. Alongside that, however, I am aware, and members should note, that there are a range of forum and fees type arrangements that go alongside that. Whether or not they're properly marshalled, coordinated, and satisfactorily respond to the capacity challenges that the iwi entities faced, and this is not even speaking to the parallel challenge of engagement with mātāwaka voices and communities of interest across Tāmaki Makaurau. E take nui anō tērā, te taha o tēnei anō nā kaupapa. We've got a challenge to look at that work alongside how to make the engagement more effective, and certainly, as the member alludes to, part of that is looking much more openly to how we can understand the capacity challenges here we face and reasonably respond to that over and beyond what's been a static program over the last 12 years. Kia ora.
E pātai, no?
Ka pai.
Ka pai. Yes, apologies, Chair. I didn't realise I was talking Māori. I was just bumbling along.
No problems at all.
I think my question is, but our committees, and I'm talking mainly about this committee, are we getting the proper results from that, the value, not the value, because we can't be, because a lot of the responses, even in this agenda, are no objections, no korero was received. So what I'm trying to ask is, I'm concerned that we are getting very poor consultation and very poor results of that consultation. In fact, I'd almost put it as tokenistic. Unless an iwi or a hapu is, it feels strong enough to respond, and to council who's trying to do its statutory obligations, but the Crown partner is struggling. I mean, it's been yonks since I saw a presentation like I saw presentations from local boards from iwi. Why is that? Because they have no capacity. So I'm wondering whether we're getting the quality that we should be getting in order to make proper decision making. So that's the question I'm asking. Are we getting that quality into these agendas? Because it seems to me that we're not. Thank you.
Matu, what I'm going to, so I'm assuming that question was aimed at me.
No, that was to Hirawini, but
okay.
I'm asking him whether Matarai believes, because they're our council Māori experts, whether Matarai believes we are getting the quality of consultation that enables us to make the proper decisions from our Crown partner.
Look, I'll only speak from our directorate, but also the PACE committee, and I can say yes. We are in regards to any of the issues that come through to the PACE committee. I can't speak on the other committees, but I also know that the committees of the whole and all the committees have and will be consulting with Māori. So I can only speak for this particular committee, and I know that everything that comes through our way, one of the key things is around consulting not only Mātā Waka, but also mana whenua. So I can speak on this on behalf of the director, not only Claudia, but also Matua Hirawini. So that's Matua. I don't know if you've got any comments to pass through in regards to the partai, but that's it from this committee. I know what we end up doing around consultation with Māori, whether it be Mātā Waka and also mana whenua. So I'll leave that to you, Matua Hirawini.
Kia ora. If I can just say, look, the fact that we've got such a wide range across Auckland Council Group of different ways of coming at the issue of engagement with mana whenua and Mātā Waka, that they are not coordinated, and that the end result raises questions as to whether or not these engagements are well informed, timely, and therefore generate quality participation from mana whenua and Mātā Waka is a live question, hence the reason for an all-of group review that we have live at the moment.
Matua Wilcox.
Look, that's all I have to say on this. I might have a comment later on, but that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Ka pai tera. Matua Kake.
Yeah, kia ora. Kia ora, Hirawini, and I just want to first of all acknowledge that this is a implementation update, and from your perspective, you identify the mana outcomes as I think you've been tika mpuno with us around the areas where you think are progressing well, and the areas that you think we aren't progressing well, in your colour coding on that previous slide. So I acknowledge that, and to be honest, bro, there's a hiding to nothing. In these kind of situations, we can engage, and there'll still be hoha people that say you haven't engaged with me, or you haven't heard me correctly. So I just need to support the council staff in terms of continuing to try different things. I know you tried to contact me the other day to try and talk about this kaupapa too, and I will contact you, Hirawini, to give some advice, particularly in the Tamaki ki te Tonga Mātā Waka space. I feel that I'm obligated to have that kōrero with you around that area, but just to acknowledge, there's I guess the Matu Glenn raises some good points in terms of some of the stuff that we've been, I guess, having to sustain for nearly 11, 12 years now in terms of that whole relationship with mana whenua. Mātāwaka, different kettle altogether. But acknowledge e hoa, I think the mana outcomes are a good start. If we can advance some of those areas and getting good definition around what we mean by outcomes and articulate that in the reports, then we can start to say, yep, we're progressing well. But your version of good progress and iwi perception of good progress are totally two different things. Sometimes they say that's the bit that I think you're on a hiding to nothing, right? That you'll never get 100%. But just talking at the table and understanding each other's views is I think is a good outcome. All about relationships. All about relationships. Nō reira ngā mihi atu kia koe.
Kia ora ngā matua. There's no further pātai. So, Matua Wilcox, if you have any whakaaro, ko koe, and then I'll get Councillor Dalton to close the debate. Kia ora ngā.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, the mana outcomes, they're a positive direction for the way the council is moving, and I support them totally. E hara tēnei he kohete mō te katoa. But there are issues that I think need to be raised, and the one that concerns me most and that I'm focusing on this today has been the lack of support and hence the lack of response from many iwi, let alone mātāwaka, to questions and pātai and all that kōrero that's flying at them from the council. In my own case, I have seen myself where, because since 2010, I mean, that was almost a lifetime ago, where we were talking about 5,000 resource consents for the whole quarter kind of thing. I mean, we've gone way past that now, and mana whenua are struggling under the burden of having to respond and having to just investigate whether they need to respond to them. So that challenge that I'm laying before you is that they do need help. And look, bottom line is 50,000 in 2010 certainly ain't cutting the mustard today. And the second part of my kōrero is, it's not only, as Tony said, it's not only mana whenua. Mātāwaka, our marae are being asked all kinds of kōrero. And sometimes they are just overwhelmed by the amount of questions, not only from council, but from the government in general. That's why our people are tired of being asked questions. And that was the purpose of my pātai this morning to the committee when we were talking about the waste minimisation and the recycling kaupapa, because we've been done to death. We've been pātai to death. I mean, you tell me one Aucklander who's not sick and tired of submitting on something. So I think, there needs to be some way of upping that so that we get quality responses. To get responses, and they're littered through just about every committee, we received no response. It's not good enough. And I think we need to kind of get more quality of response so that we get a better understanding rather than waiting for the hammock at the end of the cliff. So roto tēnā tēnei te mihi kia tātou. I support this kaupapa completely, because it's the way we start. Got to start off with small steps first. So thank you for that, and thank you, Chair.
Ngā mihi kia koe te matua. Councillor Dalton, you to close.
Kia ora, Chair. And firstly, I'd just like to thank Hiruwini and the team for the work that they've been doing and for the 6-month progress update on Kia ora Tamaki Makaurau. It's great that through the Auckland Plan and through Kia ora Tamaki Makaurau that Council has stated its commitment to the Treaty of Waitangi and to better Māori outcomes. But I speak from a position as tangata tiriti, and that is a treaty partner, and that is to listen to what Member Wilcox just said and how we take that whakaaro and do something with it. And the same as Member Kake too, you know, we must do something with it. So Hiruini, this is what you're tasked to do, isn't it? And this is something we have a framework now that provides us with that clarity and direction, as you have said. And we must continue to build on it. And through the Auckland Council group, we have a commitment, and we must do this as partners in this in Tamaki Makaurau to make sure that we actually do deliver on outcomes that are meaningful. Just the whakaaro around consultation, it is a topic of conversation. It was mentioned in another workshop this week. It's too much. It's way too much for everybody, and that's across everything that we do. So we need to work our way through that as a council. Perhaps through legislation is probably the outcome there. But in terms of this report, I commend it to the committee, and thank you, Ngā Matarai, led by Hiruini on this kaupapa. Kia ora, Chair.
Ngā mihi. So I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against? Carried. Tēnā koutou katoa Hiruini rawa ko Ashley Luann. Kia ora nā. And look, I'm going to, I know I said at 1 o'clock, but I think item 15 is one that hopefully, touch wood, and is actually quite simple. It's been supported by the local board, so I'm going to put item 15 before we go. And thank you, Councillor Collins, coming back online. You're just in time for this last item and then lunch. So item 15, it will be moved by Deputy Mayor Cashmore, and I will second it to put it on the table. So I know that Moira is not feeling well. So Letitia, I know you're doing this particular item. Can you please pass on from our committee for her to get well soon? So Letitia, I'm going to invite you to talk to this particular item, and then I'll go with Pātai and then whakaaro, and then I'll put the recommendation. Tēnā koe, Letitia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and kia ora, everyone. Yes, attending this on behalf of my colleague Moira Famoy today. This item was previously considered and approved unanimously by the PACE Committee in May 2021, with the PACE Committee approving the submission of a request to the Minister of Conservation to uplift the reserve status of 2 properties in Beachlands. Iki Panuku subsequently lodged the reserve revocation applications with the Department of Conservation. In October 2021, the Department of Conservation completed its preliminary review and advised Iki Panuku and that the Minister of Conservation had received 2 submissions directly and sought Auckland Council's consideration and views on these additional submissions. All submissions have been reviewed by Auckland Council, Council's Land Advisory Services team, Community Investments team, and presented to the Franklin Local Board, who fully support the revocation of the reserve status of these 2 properties. We're now reporting the results back to the PACE Committee, seeking approval again to submit a final request to the Minister of Conservation to uplift the reserve status of these properties. And just to note that these 2 properties were progressed by way of service property optimisation at the request of the Franklin Local Board. Happy to answer any questions.
Ka pai, Letitia, thank you. Any Pātai? I'll apply the rule. Any whakaaro before the Deputy Mayor speaks to close the debate? Deputy Mayor, your choice.
Just to say words, I'd say, Alf, excuse the local mob going past, that the Franklin Local Board has been very good at putting properties on the market that they deem surplus to requirements, sometimes a bit of angst from the community, but I thank them for their integrity in doing so.
Ka pai, Deputy Mayor. So I'm going to put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against? Carried. The time is now 13:07, so we'll be back at 13:37 team, and then we'll get through our items before our dinner at 7. Kia ora.